It was time for camp to end. And my co-counselor Chris and I got her on the bus with her mom and just said our most beautiful goodbyes. And she died in her mom's arms less than 24 hours later.
Oh, wow.
And it was
on the way back.
On the way back. And what sticks with me now in the work that I do is she was really clear at what she wanted. So she said what she wanted. And she had a mom who rallied. She had a medical team in LA that rallied. She had a camp family that rallied to support her. And then when she got to camp, everybody was captivated and surrounded this kiddo with opportunity and calm and strength all the way up until the end. And that is what really compels me in my work now, that's what I want people's end of life to be like.
Yeah.
Clear.
That makes a lot of sense.
People feel confident in saying what they want and that their support system rallies around them to make them do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sounds of Health, where every week we discover inspiring stories, we meet incredible people, and we share valuable resources to help you to boost your physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Today, I am so excited to welcome a good friend of mine and our guest, Becca Allen. Becca is a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in end-of-life planning. She works with individuals, families, and groups and facilitates workshops that bring people together to explore and prepare for end of life with thoughtful conversation, compassion, and care. Becca, welcome finally to Sounds of Health.
Dave, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
So excited to have you here. And I say finally because, as you know, I've been trying to get you on the show pretty much since we started.
Yes, and I've been dragging my feet.
You were dragging your feet.
Thank you.
But I'm so happy that you're here now. And I mean, this is a topic that I think is really important to talk about. We've kind of hit upon it in different episodes of this show. It very early on with my friend Frank Lador, and talking just about our experience. Yes, exactly. Because loss and grief is something that it is not talked about enough. People don't have the skill set and the tools to deal with it when these things happen in their lives. So it's something that we absolutely want to help to shed a light on. And I'm so excited to hear about the amazing work that you're doing.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So as you know, we start out with just getting your background. So letting our audience get to know you. So why don't you tell us about how you got started, where you're from, what brought you to doing what you're doing today?
Great. So I live in New Haven. And most of my career, I've been in leadership positions in human service organizations, and I currently work in philanthropy. And as you noted, I'm a licensed clinical social worker that specializes in end-of-life planning. And I work with individuals around kind of preparing for end of life. And that can be, the folks I work with are aging parents, solo agers, lots of boomers. I work with people who has a chronic condition and maybe end of life has come more into focus. And I also really love working with people who recognize that we're all going to die and that they want to do the work now, that they're not leaving an undue burden on their family members and loved ones to close their estate and close their life.
That's great.
So that's where I fit. I also appreciate the question around how did I get here? Because it really made me think about the seeds that have been planted over several decades and how, when you look back, you're like, oh, one thing really did lead to another.
Right.
And I think one of the memories I have is when I was in my 20s, my dad did a lot of volunteering at hospice. And he would come back and talk with me about what it's like to sit bedside as people were transitioning or dying.
Yeah. And
how that was oftentimes just quiet and how you would sit in silence and support. And I remember thinking, that's interesting. How does that happen? And what is that like? And he was really, really great at explaining just what it was like for him to be in that beautiful
This is something
space.
he just volunteered to do?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great.
And my mom worked for the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp for 30 years. She was one of the original staff.
Amazing lady.
Amazing lady, thank you. And we have a shared experience of Hole in the Wall.
That's right. That's how we met.
That is how we met.
Working for Hole in the Wall, which is one of my favorite places on earth.
Absolutely. So for listeners, if you don't know what Hole in the Wall is, it's Paul Newman's camp for kids with serious health conditions. And Newman started it a long time ago, and for one of the sole purposes for kids raising a little hell. And so there's a camp, there's hospital outreach, there are a whole bunch of different programs. And I got to hear Mom's stories for 30 years around the joy and the fun that kids had, and the staff that made sure that each and every child in their family had an experience of a lifetime. There was also the times where kids did die,
of course,
and kind of the grief and the bereavement and the sorrow that came with that as well. I was an OG counselor way back in the day, and so I also had the experience of meeting so many wonderful, amazing kids. And there was one child in particular who, again, reflecting on the planting the seeds that really left a mark. She was a 9-year-old from LA, and she was in my cabin when I think I was in the green unit. And she just, maybe it was a little 9-year-old girl sass and LA mixed together, but she had a lot of spunk and spark.
Yeah.
And she just captured our cabin with all of her energy. Obviously every child's wonderful, but there was something about her that was just like, she was just a lot of fun and sassy-frassy.
Yeah.
She came back the next year, was not in my cabin, unfortunately. And between years 2 and 3, she started getting really, really sick. And back then, the counselors would call on a phone and would call her home in LA and just sing her camp songs and reminisce about camp stories. And as the next summer was coming up, and she was getting much sicker, she made it really clear to her parents and her mom and her medical team that she was going back to camp. And this is just this amazing story about her being really intentional, saying, we got to do whatever it takes. And so she convinced her medical team, convinced her mom that she was going to do one of the first sessions at camp. And her medical team worked with the camp medical team to make it happen. She was too sick to fly. So the story goes that Newman rented a bus to go pick her up in LA and to drive her across the country with her mom. As I said, that my mom was working for camp at the time, and I remember her coming over and saying to me before I saw the camper, she's really sick. Like she's really sick. Mm-hmm. And so this awesome kid, this 11-year-old girl, got off the bus, and as camp does, we showed her a great time, and she participated in almost all the activities in a different way. This is what camp specializes. So she went to the horse barn. She didn't ride the horse, but she brushed the horse. She went to the pool. She didn't go in the pool, but she was by the pool.
She's a part of it all. Yeah.
Part of everything. She was, I think the LA in her, she was a theater kid, so she did some part of her performance. Yeah. The boys in Red 8 serenaded her for stage night. So she participated in a way that she could. And she really captivated everybody's hearts and attention that camp. It was time for camp to end, and my co-counselor Chris and I got her on the bus with her mom and just said our most beautiful goodbyes, and she died in her mom's arms less than 24 hours later.
Oh, wow.
And it was
on the way back.
On the way back. And what sticks with me now in the work that I do is she was really clear at what she wanted. So she said what she wanted. And she had a mom who rallied. She had a medical team in LA that rallied. She had a camp family that rallied to support her. And then when she got to camp, everybody was captivated and surrounded this kiddo with opportunity and calm and strength all the way up until the end. And that is what really compels me in my work now, that's what I want people's end of life to be like.
Yeah.
Clear.
That makes a lot of sense.
People feel confident in saying what they want, and that their support system rallies around them to make them do it.
That is such a beautiful story, and just one of so many that come out of camp. I mean, I had the honor of volunteering in the cabins when I worked there during the summers, and it was life-changing. I mean, honestly, life-changing. Other than the moments I've had in my family, like probably some of the best moments of my life.
Absolutely great.
And yeah, just an amazing place, and I can see that being an inspiration for doing the type of work that you're doing now. Yeah. I spent 10 years working for nonprofits. Yeah. So I worked for camp. I worked for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And a lot of what I did during those years also feeds into what we're doing with the podcast. Right. It's kind of why I do what I do, because you see all of these and meet all of these incredible human beings who are doing things to make the world a better place. And so that's really exciting. And I can see, that path that's led you to this. When you went to school, did you like automatically know you were going to go into social work, or did you kind of figure that out as you went?
I think in college, I always say that someone's like, oh, you like people, so you should be a psychology major. And I was like, I do like people. Yeah. I could have been a business major, but someone's like, oh, go into psychology. It took me a while to then get my master's. And back then it was really focused on behavioral health, which is what most of my career is. I would say about probably 10 to 15 years ago, I met someone who was practicing to be a death doula, an end-of-life doula. And it was just, again, one of those things in the back of my head. I was like, I'm going to put that for maybe later or maybe never. COVID happened and really brought death up close for the world, but also the country in particular. And I pulled that out in the back of my head and said, okay, what does that look like? Black women have been birthing people in and out of this world from the very, very beginning. And I knew for me that I wanted to make sure that I learned from people that didn't just look like me, and that I was in a community that didn't just look like people like me. And I stumbled along upon a woman named Alua Arthur, and she started an organization called Going with Grace. She'd been at it for several years. And I was like, I want to learn from her. She said a lot of TED Talks. She wrote this amazing book last year, which is Briefly Perfectly Human.
Oh, that's great.
And I took I think it was a 4-month course. It was probably 3 months in 2022 with her. And it was this, so it was online because everything was back then.
Right.
And I was in community with people all across the country. And 1 week was Zooming with her and everybody. And then the off week was a small group. And she had said at the beginning that if you don't know where you want to kind of end up in the death space, you should by the end. And at the beginning, I'm like, I don't know. I am so inspired by Alua. And at the end, I also had to do volunteer hours. So I volunteered at the Brantford Hospice. And
as a part of the program.
As a part of a program, which awesome. I really liked. And Brantford Hospice is just this beautiful facility. And my experience there were a lot of people who were in the phase of transitioning and active dying. So oftentimes, if I circle it back to my dad, I was sitting bedside. And I was sitting bedside I had a name, but they weren't awake. And I had to settle and resettle my brain to be like, wow, this is pretty holy. Like, this is pretty beautiful to sit with someone that I don't know, that I, as an extrovert, I can't talk to.
Right.
And what do I do with my time? And I realized, so I would read poetry. I would obviously sit in silence. I would, I ended up singing lullabies. I was like, what did my mom do to calm me? And I was like, lullabies. And and I loved every moment of that. It really made me focus on something that I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
I also recognized that when family members came in is when I perked up. And kind of going back to what Alua said, you'll know when you know, I really refocused my energies on I really want to get people thinking about what they want at their end of life and how they compare to do it. And so it's kind of the mashup between sitting in silence, the camper, the 11-year-old camper who made it really clear and saying, that's where I want to sit. So that's where I work as an end-of-life doula and a social worker. I work with people kind of more upfront and when they're ready to figure out how they can prepare for their death.
So not necessarily when they're sick or about to die. This can be in an advanced stage of just thinking about and planning and getting ahead of it.
Absolutely. I think when you talk to anybody who's had to close an estate, clean up their parents' house or a loved one, or if they've had a partner or someone die.
Yeah.
We're at the age and stage of life where parents are dying. And so there are many people who've come to me as like, I will never leave this task, while someone's grieving to my loved ones. And I was like, that's where I come in. Let's do the work now. Because it's just, especially if it's, when you're in the throes of grief, you have to work. You got to figure out passwords. You got to figure out what do you do with the stuff.
So challenging. Yeah, it's absolutely challenging. And also, you're not in your right mind.
No.
You are not yourself when you're going through those things.
No.
When we lost my dad, like there were moments through that process. I think my sister called me out on it one time and said, I think you're in denial right now. Like you're not facing the fact that we're about to lose him.
Yeah.
And she was right. But I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
It wasn't a rational thought process.
Right.
And so when people are coming up against this amazingly challenging time and being asked to get the paperwork, get the password, figure out what you're doing with the money, how are you paying for this?
Yeah.
I mean, how difficult is all of that?
Yeah. Yeah. And you think around the grief, the anticipatory grief, and then the stress and sorrow.
Right.
And then the awkward part of like, Dad, can I get the password to your computer?
Right.
I think there are other examples that oftentimes in this work, people will say, oh, no, I did my advance directive. It's in my will.
Sure.
And then I say, okay, that's great. I want to talk about advance directives and being in your will. Also, who has a password to your computer? And they're like, don't worry about it. I'm so good at that. And they say, I have a book. It's in my desk on the third drawer down behind the cigar box. That's where I keep my password book. And I was like, okay, who's got that? The only way it's going to unlock any of this is someone's got to know it's there.
Yeah.
And so they feel like, I'm doing all the right things because I have a password book and I kind of update it, but no one knows it's there.
Yeah.
So it's trying to kind of have these conversations with people saying, and them thinking, what are all the things that they need to do? And I think people think, I do meet a lot of people, it's like, I want to avoid probate. I was like, okay, well, you're going to work with an attorney on that. But there's like, think about all the things in your life that only you know.
Right.
So I created with my dad, back to my dad, a thing called a Red Book. There are a lot of ways that people write things down to prepare for end of life. So there's a next of kin box. AARP has a huge box. Has a big book. There's a I'm dead, now what book. So there are a lot of different tools that help people do it. And really the fact is it's just doing it. It's a slog.
Yeah.
But it's got everything in the Red Book. It's got like 80% of everything that someone would need to know to close an estate and a life.
Yeah.
And so some of the, I give the example of auto renewals that we oftentimes have now. And so my auto renewal is Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. And we get a big box of Who Gives a Crap toilet paper on our front stoop quarterly.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's going to know that is not auto reply? How are they going to turn it off? And so there are things like that only we know because it's our life that doing the Red Book kind of brings to life.
Yeah.
And says, okay, a lot of where hiding the keys. I met somebody who had a boat and no one really knew that they had a boat. He just kind of ignored it.
Right, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, we got to write down stuff about the boat and where the key is to the boat. So it's those little things in addition to making sure that people have an updated will and trust.
Of course, yeah. Those are those basic things,
Those
right?
are the basics, and people think I got it covered. I'm
right.
like, it's your entire life.
Yeah. I mean, it's so many things that you don't think of. It's not going to be you that has to deal with it. It's the people that you leave behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And being thoughtful about designing how you want to be remembered or how you want to leave your family.
Yeah.
I think that's a great process to go through.
Yep.
it can be a part of feeling better about, what you've done and what you're leaving behind.
Yes. In this red book, it really is 3 parts. It's my life, my supports. Oops, sorry. Sorry, Jason.
Sorry, when we talk with our hands,
I know,
which I do
right.
too, I've kind of learned not to, but yeah.
And then kind of all the bills and the advisors. And the third part is how you want to be honored.
Yeah.
And when I work with people, I say, this really is a head and heart task. The head is you're just writing down passwords and usernames, and here's my advisor, and these are where the car keys are. And then the heart is that whole last section.
Yeah.
And that you can feel the energy in the room shift to, do you want to be cremated? Where do you want your ashes to go? Who would you like to speak at your funeral? Do you have a prepaid, do you have a pre-need? Do you have a prepaid funeral plot?
Right.
Like all those things, but you get to and then people start, what is so beautiful is a lot of people have experience with death and funerals or celebrations of life.
Yeah.
And they will, sometimes if they're stuck on what they want, they'll go into I don't want it how Aunt Susie did it. That's not what we're going to do. And it's okay, so let's start there and then kind of figure out what you would like.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I oftentimes do the red book in a group, and you start in the beginning and people are like, oh, it's going to be a little hard. And then you got one person who just lights a spark of what's possible and how they would like to be honored and what that would look like. And then people start thinking about it and writing it down.
That makes sense. I think also what you don't want is probably just as important as what you do want, but it's also probably closer to the surface for people.
Yes.
Like you're saying, I experienced this with my aunt.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
That comes out really quick.
One of the provocative questions I ask people is, who don't they want at their bedside? And there are people who are I don't know why I'm picking on Aunt Susie. I don't think I have an Aunt Susie anywhere. I do not want Aunt Susie at my bedside. Yeah. That's not going to happen. I was okay, so who do you want to make sure that Aunt Susie doesn't do that? But that's people are oh, I've never thought about it that way.
That's interesting.
Right.
I can make an exclusive. Exactly. Keep people out. Maybe get a bouncer for the door.
Exactly. A little A-team,
I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your website as well.
Yeah.
So the Red Book is a part of the services that you're offering, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about kind of the business side for you and what it is you're offering and when people should reach out, how they find you and things like that.
Sooner the better.
Okay.
Sooner the better. I want to start with when it's never too late.
Okay.
But back to kind of that awkward, I think you brought it up of Dad, what's the password? If that's the only time to get important information while someone is kind of really on their way out, then that's great. But as I said, none of us know when we're going to die.
Right.
So doing this stuff when we're healthy and younger, and revisiting it is really important. So a couple things. Again, the Red Book's got a bunch of information. I love talking with people about advanced care planning, and so it's advanced directives. Everybody who is 18 and older should have an advanced directive. Right. I oftentimes, it's a 4-part series, and so we kind of break down. Everyone thinks, as I mentioned before, it's no, I've done my advanced directive. It's in my will. And I said, okay, who has a copy of that section? So because typically, again, advanced care planning is thinking, documenting, and discussing your healthcare wishes in the event of a healthcare emergency. So if you think about a healthcare emergency, you're all going to the hospital. It's happening. So trying to figure out what did mom want or what did my spouse want?
Right.
I've never had this question. I think I'm sure. I don't know. That is typically too late because everybody's winging it.
Of course.
You see people are on and so having these conversations around what you want. A lot of advanced care planning people will say, well, pull the plug. And they think about what someone's going to need to do. I want CPR. I don't want CPR.
Right.
All of this is based in values. So you really come at this conversation through values and what's important to you. And the values will help drive medical decision making. So for example, if a doctor is recommending a procedure and the procedure, maybe one of the consequences of procedure is you'll be bedridden, or you're going to have to live the rest of your life with assistance. So then it's going back and saying, okay, what mom doesn't want to live in a nursing home or a rehab facility. It's really important for mom to be able to to be in her garden. How does it, and I know that sounds kind of silly, like going to a doctor saying mom wants to be in her garden and she wants to live independently, but that's really helpful question and conversation to have with a doctor to be like, this is what mom wants. How do we get that? If we can't, then how do we help make decisions on behalf of mom that's more aligned?
That makes sense.
Other thing around our healthcare system is it's treat, 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 treat. And it's really, oftentimes people are making medical decisions in the hall, at the bedside, like you need to be there.
Of course.
Making split decisions. And that's also a lot of people white knuckle it then. They're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And no one's telling you what to do.
No.
The doctor's never going to tell you what to do.
No. I oftentimes when I do the advanced care planning class, I kind of get in the power pose of like, you really have to be in a power pose to kind of handle this current healthcare system.
Yeah.
One of the first classes in the advanced care planning, we talk about people describe our healthcare system so that we kind of really think about what's going to welcome us in terms of making decisions and what it looks like.
Practical experiences of
Absolutely.
navigating. That's
Absolutely.
really important.
The second session is healthcare proxy.
Yeah.
And so who is your healthcare decider? A primary and a secondary. And I find a lot of people say, well, my firstborn will be my primary and my secondborn. And I ask people to just remove from their mind the who, and let's talk about the qualities that person's going to have to be a decider. And sometimes it's not your spouse, and sometimes it's not your firstborn.
Yeah, right.
And people really reshuffle who it might be. So you're going to have a quick thinker. You're going to have someone who feels very confident talking to a physician, a medical team. You're going to have someone who, one of the first times I was doing this training, I asked, there were a bunch of nurses in the room, and I was like, what is another quality? And someone said, you're going to have to be comfortable with death. Like it could happen.
Right.
So if someone's so afraid of like, oh my gosh, if I don't talk about it, won't happen.
Yeah.
You need a person who makes healthcare decisions who are confident and competent with that.
Right.
It's a lot of advocacy in that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not an easy position to be in.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah. And if you're going to assign that to somebody who doesn't want it or doesn't accept it, that makes it more difficult.
Yes. And I think it's, so again, and when people have kind of reshuffled the deck on who's a primary, who's a secondary, they're like, but I have 4 kids. I said, everybody has a role. Everybody has a role.
Yeah.
But the doctors want to know who's the decider. I think the other interesting thing is people think for advanced care directives, advanced care planning, is that someone is knocked out, unable to make decisions. My mom was in the cardiac ICU in 2019. She was loopy and out of it. There was no way she was competent. Right. So the doctors are like, okay, I said, I'm her healthcare proxy. And so I was the one making the decision. So again, it can be when people are just not able to make healthcare decisions for themselves.
Right. Absolutely. Which probably happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other part is, so it's thinking for yourself, thinking about your values. It really is discussing with your healthcare proxies, and I highly recommend together, so you can so everybody can hear and ask questions and try to get clarity, because it's a big deal to make these decisions. The time may come, the time may not come, but it also opens the door to other conversations that should be had about end of life, which is also the beauty. It's kind of coming in through advanced care planning and kind of going out is like, how do you want to be celebrated? What do you want your end of life to look like?
Yeah. And we've seen, we're invited to kind of a celebration of life before the person that passed away.
Yes. Tell me
and so
about
I'm seeing
that.
more of those things. I actually didn't get to attend. Jason attended for a very close friend of ours, a friend of the agency and of the podcast, actually. And I was on a college visit, of course, so couldn't attend. But yeah, what a beautiful experience for the people that went. And were able to say, because nobody even realized that she was sick. So it was a kind of a shock to see where she was in the process.
Wow. Oops, sorry.
He's
Am I allowed
trying
to
down the
turn?
microphone. Yeah, you can turn.
Incredible in that she passed very quickly after.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize how fast and how much things had progressed.
Yes.
But everyone had the moment to come together share how much they cared and loved for this person. And it was incredible. But we rarely get that.
Right.
Like, it was a very unique opportunity.
Yep.
And she had the social structures around her working with the elderly that she was
I know who you're talking about.
And have this celebration of life. Like,
Yeah.
people don't get that time.
And we don't, because we don't talk about death. We also don't talk about that a celebration of life or a living funeral is an option.
Yeah.
And when you think about funerals, there are oftentimes people are like, I really wish I would have said that.
Yeah.
So that is, and I think because she was in this field, I met her, that I think also I heard you guys talk about her,
Yeah.
that she was aware
Yeah,
that like I want to also tell people how much I love them.
Yeah, of course.
And it doesn't negate, like, you're still going to have a funeral.
Yeah.
But she got to hear it.
Right. Yeah.
best.
It's a great thing. Yeah. And something I don't know that everybody considers as an option for
And
them.
I think people are like, it's so depressing. It had a lot of energy and joy. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't think depressing was the word for sure. Yeah.
Right.
No, it definitely was not depressing.
Right.
Yeah.
People had good food, good laughs, there was good stories, good sharing.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
The only problem is that there was a lot of people. So
Right.
everyone wanted
Yeah.
to share something.
Yeah.
And there was a long line to say something or do something, because it's a good problem to have.
Yes, exactly. And she left this earth knowing that she was deeply loved.
Right.
What a
Which is a gift.
What a
Absolutely. Yeah. I often joke when we lost my dad, like when we went through the funeral and the reception and all of that time, that week following his passing, it was a beautiful thing. I'm like, this is a great party. If only my dad were here, but it was like, why don't we do this more often? And of course, life just gets in the way.
Yes.
But the grieving process, especially immediately after you lose someone, if you can find a way to quiet your mind a little bit and be in the moment, there are so many beautiful things to experience in that process. So but people don't get to do that, especially if it's a crisis, if it's something that happened unexpectedly.
Yeah.
So this planning process, or even just talking about it, it just prepares the brain and the mind for when it does happen.
Some of my favorite. So I also created, was going on a walk a lot, and I was like, how do I create a quick workshop, 90-minute workshop on like all the high level things? Like, if you're going to do it and you're going to go hard doing end of life planning, what would that look like?
Right.
So I created a workshop on the analogy of rooms of a house. And so in this workshop, each room represents part of end of life planning. I think I end with the room. So the home office or the den, that is where typically your computer is with your files, and that's where like Red Book stuff is.
Sure.
Like, it's like we gotta clean up our files, our little files.
Yeah.
We gotta write this stuff down. Like, that is all the head stuff of end of life planning. Right. And I end with it's either, I was like, okay, folks, it's either your attic, it is your basement, it is your garage, or it's a what are the things that rental place? Storage
like
locker, storage
unit.
unit. And I said, this is where all your stuff goes. We have so much stuff. And so in that room, in one of those rooms, it's either it's both. It's your physical stuff. And I say, your kids don't want your stuff. They want important, memorable things.
Yes.
But they don't want your armoire.
Right.
Like, they don't want all the big stuff. And it's emotional stuff. And so we talk both about, we got to figure out right now what we're going to do about your stuff, your physical stuff, and your emotional stuff. So there are relationships that you want to make amends, or you just want to tell people you love them. We're going to do this room together. So the getting your house in order is a high level 90-minute workshop that I try to have people feel inspired to take, again, one room at a time.
Yeah.
And to work on kind of each section of end of life planning.
I think it would be hard for my family because everything happens in the kitchen with Italians. So
yes.
It's like the kitchen is everything. It's all the rooms.
And so we talk about the kitchen, and I said, I did homework at my kitchen table. Like, that is how I grew up. That is the heart of the home. Is the kitchen.
Right.
Like, it all's there. And I said, I think I did my homework at the kitchen table.
Right.
I think my parents told us, they were getting divorced to the kitchen table. Then I had subsequent high school parties playing quarters at the kitchen table, and then Christmases at the kitchen table. Like everything happens at that kitchen table.
Yeah.
The heart of the home. And that is where I put like, please make sure you have a will and a trust. Please do advanced care planning.
Right.
Please think about what you want for end of life, because that's where you break bread.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you do consultations with individuals and families.
I do.
And then you're doing workshops as well.
I love doing workshops.
So really it's anybody can come to you and have these conversations.
Please reach out. Yes.
Okay.
And one of the other things is, speaking of kitchen tables, folks who invite me in to have conversations with their loved ones. So if they like a women's group or a book club, and I co-create with the host what like a 90-minute conversation around end of life would look like. And it can go in a bunch of different, we can just do advanced directives. We can talk about living funerals. The whole point is to start having these conversations. Death has been taken out of our culture a long time ago.
Right.
It used to be up close, and people used to die in the parlor.
Yeah, of course.
And then the funeral industry was created and took the funeral parlor to the funeral parlor.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all removed.
Yeah.
And so we don't talk about death, and we don't say the word death as often as we should be.
Yeah.
And because it's not up close and personal with us anymore, it's a hard thing to talk about.
Yeah, that's really a great point. It has been removed from the home, and nowadays when it does happen in the home, it's such a shock, and it's a negative instead of being a beautiful thing and a positive, and that is part of the conversation as well, I think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in the conversation.
Please.
You got to turn your microphone on first.
Can you hear me?
Nope, not at all.
All right. Anyway, I'll speak loud.
Oh, there you are.
Anyway, so Rochelle does not like the conversation on death with me. Like, so I have the conversation. She's like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I said, but this is important that we have to have this conversation. I always joke around with her. I say, don't worry about me when you're gone. Worry about yourself and have a big party. That's the most important thing. I'm going to be gone. Everyone should just come together and have a big celebratory party.
Yeah.
But that's the type of thing. She doesn't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
That's not something she's comfortable talking about.
Yeah.
Most people aren't.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to have the conversation.
Right.
I would say, guys, that I think when it's phrased and we need to talk about it, it is so enormous and so terrifying.
Yeah.
And the idea of maybe saying, I want you to have a party.
Yeah.
And I would love for this party to honor me to look like this.
Yeah.
And I want my, best friend Sue to say she's going to be up front. So kind of breaking it down into, that's not as terrifying.
Right.
But like, we got to talk about this big thing. That's terrifying.
Right. Yeah.
I think the other way, and this is in particular in the thinking about planning, is sometimes talking with people about their experiences and saying what was good about Joan's death, what wasn't. And so, because again, it just breaks it down into a more personal, like, okay, I did see that. And I really liked that piece. I really liked that living funeral.
Yeah.
I never thought about a living funeral. Maybe I want a living funeral. Or especially around medical decision making, people who've seen kind of the chaos of everyone was making decisions or no one was making decisions.
Right.
And then a mom or a dad or a spouse saying, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I want this person to make the decision because it's going to be heartache and chaos anyway, that we got to have these conversations now because so again, it's kind of bringing in the negative of what you don't want, but oftentimes that's a way into a conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I also think it's something that, it's one of many topics that people tend to avoid if they're not educated properly.
Right.
Like balancing your finances. People avoid it. They don't know how to do it. Yes. It's overwhelming. Yes. Like death. Like it's, they're kind of hand in hand in some ways. And these are things that I think the more education around, the more we remove the stigma of talking about the negative of it, you can find that there's just so many positives if we plan ahead.
Right.
And the dying process, I feel like it comes up more in like a financial product sale than it does
Absolutely.
in anything else.
Absolutely.
It's when we're talking about life insurance and long-term care,
Absolutely.
which are very important products,
Yes.
very important to be a
Yes.
part of your financial plan,
Yes.
but it's not the only part
Yes.
of the process you want to plan for. And I think that's what we're talking about,
Absolutely.
right?
And that is a real, again, like I talked to a lot of people and I was like, okay, I just started a class yesterday, a Red Book class yesterday. I was like, who's got a will and a trust? Most of them did. I was like, okay, have you looked at it in the last 3 to 5 years? And again, this was a class of boomers and silent generation. And they're like, less hands. I was like, okay, your homework is you're going to call your attorney. You're just going to dust that off.
Yeah.
But again, then we get into all the other parts of our life that we know. My husband and I, Bill, who you know, we did the Red Book before we went on a vacation. And we're really equal. Like we both co-parent. Like we do everything equal. And I was like, we know each other's stuff, or about our household. And I did the Red Book, and there were things that I did not know, and there are things that he did not know. So even my assumption of like, we got this, I just gotta fill it out.
Yeah.
So we did. So it was a labor of love. It took a long time to did it. And then when we, before we went on this vacation, I called the trustee of my kids and my oldest, and I said, this is where the Red Book is. It's in my closet on the floor. If we do not come back for whatever reason, there it is.
That's everything you need.
It's everything you need. And and again, like I think about my kid would have been 23. Like she doesn't know stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I also think we're all going to die. Like it's all going to happen.
Yeah,
And we
right.
all think maybe it's going to be 80 or 90. And there are a lot of really scary medical conditions that are bringing, again, end of life up closer. And if we can try on conversations about end of life and death, just try on. What I find is that it is not as scary as people think.
Yeah.
It really, really isn't.
Yeah. It's a part of the experience, the overall experience. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so important. I love the work that you're doing. I love that you found this path. And I think that so many people can benefit from it. I'm sure there's things that we could do together, which I'm really excited to talk to you about as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken up so much of your time already, and I feel like we're just scratching the
conversation.
surface of it.
I know.
But in the interest of time, I'm
thank
going to
you.
get to the wrap up,
Okay.
which I know you've prepared yourself for.
Well, I am a fan of this podcast.
Well, I appreciate that.
So I'm ready
I
for the
appreciate
health
that.
hack.
We are very excited to be doing this. Our goal is to make it better and better as we go.
Yeah.
And we're so excited that you're here. So the last question I have for you is, can you leave our audience with a health hack, something that you do in your life that you practice that helps you to improve your physical, emotional, or financial well-being?
Okay. Obviously, we need to drink more water. Obviously, we need to get outside. And
Right.
obviously, we need to put down our phones.
That's right.
Given this work has absolutely catapulted me into telling people I love them more often. And I think one of those things around the word love is it's just romantic. And I use it with friends and colleagues, and I get really clear about what I love about them. And what's been really interesting, and I just think that's really good for your body, your heart and mind and soul.
Yeah.
And I take it really seriously. And it was kind of weird to begin with. And sometimes it's like, you're telling me you love me? I'm like, oh no, I'm telling you I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. So it may not be love, but it's the whole importance of say what you need to say now. And if it comes to you, just tell someone how you feel.
Yeah.
It's not weird.
Right.
It's really important. It's to Jason's experience of the living funeral. Say it now because we don't know when.
Yeah.
We just don't know when.
I think that's great advice. I think you're the first person to bring that one up.
All right.
Yeah. And you know, I'm somebody who expresses love a lot. And probably, you know, I think a lot of people don't because they're worried about putting themselves out there like that, being vulnerable, saying it, you know. But it is something that makes you feel good, makes them feel good, and then you know you've said it.
Yep. Say what you need to say.
Exactly. Great advice, Becca.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for being
great.
here. Won't be the last time. See, now
love it.
you've broken the ice.
I love it.
You'll be back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And tell Bill we said hello.
I will.
Right.
Take care.
And thank all of you out there for listening to Sounds of Health. We are working to continue to grow this podcast and grow our audience. Jason and I are working behind the scenes every day on new ideas and things for our next season. So please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, leave us a review. We love hearing from our listeners. Tell us some stories about, who you're hearing, and listen to our guests. If you were here for Becca today, go back and listen to some of our past episodes too. We really do try to find people that have amazing stories, resources, tips to help all of you to improve your health. So continue to follow us, like, subscribe, and thank you so much. I'm Dave MacNiven, your host, as always. Sounds of Health is produced by Jason Carubia with music from Rob Hames. And every week, we bring guests on to help you to upgrade your health. Thank you so much. Thank you for being an important part of our wellness community, and we'll see you next time.